hoodwinked. This is my movie. Easily in my top 50 animated movies, if not like top 10 or 3. It is my comfort film, my guilty pleasure. Because if you haven't seen this movie before, it just looks like your classically under-budgeted, terrible movie. I know the archetype well. Add on to the fact that it's partially the passion project of the big bad Harvey Weinstein, and this should be the typical golden child of a punching bag of a movie. But that's not what I'm here to do today. Instead, this is a follow-up from 6 years ago when I first started the terrible series, as my very first pick was in fact the sequel to this movie, which was unabashedly terrible. But this movie is instead going to the amazing series, because it may be ugly, but it is cinema. And I have so many praisings and gushes to give out about my experience with this movie that I'm actively struggling to pace myself here. It is contextually a bit of a problem child, and only ages worse with time, but it's not even available on streaming anywhere. So happening to find the full thing uncontested on YouTube since a couple of months ago, like any usual terrible film, means you don't have to worry about financially lining any dodgy person's pockets. Let's dive into the unexpected masterpiece that is the amazing movie in terrible clothing.
You can't judge a book by its cover.
So we begin with your classic fairy tale tapestry and narrator. In case you aren't aware, this is a fairy tale movie, and it's all a spin on the Red Riding Hood story. But rather than going through the individual story beats, we instead are told the audience already knows the events, but that there is
More to every tale than meets the eye.
And so we flip through the pages as the pop-up book effects turn into doofy CGI trees instead. I love it. As we now jump into the most iconic scene of the Red Riding Hood story, the end of it.
Is everything okay?
Yeah, sure thing.
You do literally know how these events go, and I guess with Disney being the ones to take on a bunch of fairy tales, why not gun for one of the most well-known of all time? But a hint different.
What's going on, Grandma?
This little Red Riding Hood seems a lot less innocent and dopey to her bookly version.
Your mouth doesn't move when you talk.
And though the animation to her confrontation with the big bad wolf is consistently stiff, with little animation on the digits themselves in any character motion, the writing is top-notch, as we're pushing on absurdity.
Plastic surgery. Grandma's had a little work done.
This is a parody, with the scene coming off like a comedy sketch. And with Little Red Riding Hood clearly not taking the bait, we jump to the next beat.
I'm taking Granny down, and you're next.
With a pretty decent confession to misinterpret later, only for the scene to just go off on one as things escalate. Out of context, complete madness, full escalation, and that's the scene. What a hook! In one fell swoop, you get assaulted on the eyes, you just about get used to it, the writing has comedy chops, and then you're invested on whatever the hell is going on. Your lack of context just thrown upon you as we hit our title card. This really isn't the story as we know it. Because now we're turning this movie into a detective story, as the police in the area are attending the crime scene to get to the bottom of this mess. And just from that prompt alone, you know this movie is going to have a lot of fun and be a lot of fun with this spin. With the script leaning hard on the fairy tale nature of this universe, with all sorts of references in the background.
Is the house made of gingerbread, sir?
Now this is again one of those movies that I watched so much as a kid that I practically have memorized the thing. But what I don't remember is just how poor some of the animation is in this thing. Every time you look at some side character in the background, you could especially feel the rough edges of whatever engine they used to animate this thing. But in a way, it also makes it all the more endearing. They were pushing the limits, and they were very limited. Anyway, here we meet Police Chief Grizzly, who's your classic hard hat bad cop. And their mature take on the classic events is just great to hear adapted. When relayed to him,
breaking and entering, wielding an axe, intent to eat.
It's particularly on this rewatch where I'm pausing every line to make comments, where I could really appreciate the jokes per minute in this film. They just pop off constantly in the background. And then we reach our focus. 4 suspects, each fully diverged from their iconic roles. and everyone confused, as the police are here trying to straighten things out. All the while, we've got gags and bits on all fronts. From Little Red Riding Hood continuing to be not so little,
Shouldn't you be in school?
Shouldn't I have a lawyer?
to the animals being self-aware,
Take them downtown, boys.
It's the woods, Chief. We don't have a downtown.
Not yet.
as well as a couple I think maybe weren't so worth it. Hey, with 1,000 jokes, maybe they can't all be winners.
Someone hibernated on the wrong side of the cave.
But it's a great time seeing the tale under this lens. And soon enough, that frog guy is our interrupting detective Flippers, our narrator from before who comes at us with our main premise.
We've got 4 suspects, and that means 4 stories.
As yes, we will be going back through each of these 4 characters' perspectives over the events of the last day. This is a concept I only really experienced for the first time from watching this movie back in cinemas in like 2006. It's what I lovingly call narrative time travel. It's why I've come to learn I like murder mysteries in general these days, or how I have a serious soft spot for The Walking Dead game's 400 Days DLC. Could someone recommend me any TV shows with that kind of format? And bonus points if you can properly perceive one person's perspective appearing on someone else's. I just love that stuff. And so we start with Red.
Here's a story I hope you'll like.
Oh, by the way, in classic Disney fashion, this is a musical too. Kinda. A chunk of the songs are not sung by the main cast, but you know what it isn't? A pop culture slapped on top. This is original stuff, baked in-house so directly ties to the narrative as it rolls out. I don't hate music in movies, I hate lazy choices being put into movies. And this is far from that. Anything to not spend on the animation itself. And what's more, the voice actress of Red herself is pretty good at singing. And that's because it is Anne Hathaway herself. What a talent! Is it a shame it is pinned to her time being close to Harvey Weinstein and comes off of the back of her around this time saying she specifically wanted to stop playing roles of little girls in main roles in order to pursue more mature things out there in the industry? Oh yeah, an extra dated element. Though oddly, I guess Red feels the same, so maybe it's kind of ahead of its time?
Sad song played at the back of her mind.
Anyway, with her bike ride, we're now gonna see the status quo, with shops everywhere going out of business because of the fabled Goody Bandits, ruining the local area.
Someone took all his recipes. Now I'm out of a job.
Red is seen as that classic princessy girl with the power of animal flight, adoration from all the locals, and a good heart. But she's also underestimated by her grandma specifically, who says,
A trip up the mountain's too dangerous for a little girl.
and with those pieces put together, you get the full story of Red's place and conflict. All gathered together in rapid succession in a neat, succinct little bow. Great establishing to start.
I'd fly all the way past that mountain.
Time for the plot to kick in.
You're next?
Featuring a notable dip in voice acting quality from this little woodpecker that has also come to visit Red.
What does it mean, you're next?
But it's fine. Clearly, it's the young kid of someone in the credits. I tried to research exactly what the connection was, and though I do find a matching surname, still can't even tell what they were to this movie. But they're part of the special thanks in the credits at least, something to add to the charm of this movie. Though this voice actress does no other role ever again. But anyway, yes, Granny's is the next target for the Goody Bandit, so Red takes her recipe book from the vault and is to take them up the mountain to Granny herself.
Gonna get your recipes?
Not today.
Sweet. And so Red's now up in the cable car mentioned by the rabbit earlier as his other job, with him worrying about the presence of wolves in the dark forest.
Forest can be a dangerous place for a little guy like me.
And just as quickly as Red herself begins to open up about her woes of the day with Granny, we're kicked right into gear as she falls right into the woods herself. Boingo the rabbit only able to look on. It's admittedly all pretty fast pace, but maybe that's part of the charm. We need to hit through this whole day 4 times, so it doesn't drag over any minute. Though this movie is also like an hour and 14 minutes without the credits. Can't say little 10-year-old me in cinemas was bored. And apparently that's a Weinstein thing. In researching this, the Weinstein Company actually came in as distributors pretty late into the film's production after seeing it at the Cannes Film Festival. And though they didn't ruin the spirit of the original vision, they did switch in a lot of recastings for celebrity powers and they shortened it by like 20 minutes to stop it dragging. We'll get to the recastings later though.
So, you're the little girl in the red hood.
With Red landing safely, we now have our first meet-up with the wolf. And we know he's a bit of a shifty guy with what he's been saying. And that only continues more. Asking the kind of questions that make him the most suspicious.
You make deliveries to your granny often?
As well as doing a great job at being pretty awkward throughout, too.
It's good. It's very good.
To the point it feels pretty natural. Cause what do you know, there's some improv going in here. And it's Patrick Warburton at the helm of the wolf. You knew that already, let's be honest. And he's one of the only characters to keep his role during the recast-orama. So his improv stays. For everyone else, the improv would be done by their original cast members, animated and then redubbed over exactly since they couldn't afford to reanimate any shot.
It's the woods, Chief. We don't have a downtown.
It's the woods, Chief. We don't have a downtown.
Not yet.
Limiting the range of vocal performance and pasting over the comedic credits of the original improviser. What an odd problem to have from a restricted production. Apparently, the wolf goes off on one and Red runs away, only for the wolf to magically teleport in front of her, as these villains somehow tend to do.
Hand over the basket.
And with a few more fleeing scenes later, and some Snow White logic, Red gets away, and the wolf is left cascading down the river.
I'll get you and your little granny, too!
So from there, we just as quickly move to the goat scene. Yet another legendary scene. Or maybe I'm just biased in saying that. But I've seen memes of this scene squeak out there. So this is Japheth, a yodeling goat cursed to always be singing everything he says, unless it is funny to not do so.
Everything?
That's right.
Taking from the Roger Rabbit playbook there, this is just a crazy and fun original character to the story. A yodeling goat who is overly prepared for every scenario. He even has a song number about it.
Prepare, be prepared. This lesson must be shared.
Funnily enough, the number was just put in there to justify how a goat in a rocking chair formation can fit into a minecart. By swapping horns is his logic. The micro music video as well has some beautifully cursed animations in there. I love the one of Red with the pickle jar in particular. And the director said though his biggest regret is not fixing animation errors, it was a matter of priority. If any given shot needed 10 fixes, he could only choose 3. Not much you can do there. Anyway, with the stakes rising as Grandma seems to be in trouble,
Gotta go, Munchkin.
Red is dropped down into said minecart sequence. It goes on a little bit, a fun little roller coaster moment that only picks up with... Gotta love how the goat physically can't scream, and so replaces it with yodeling instead. It all ramps up, literally in the case of a ramp popping up, and Red is shot into the distance. The scene is, yet again, another rapid succession, but with a decent escalation of action. Not much on the character development front, but we are just 18 minutes into this movie here. And there's plenty more to see. We've not gotten the full picture at all. And so, in a moment of spiritual enlightenment, Red now sees her granny up in the clouds guiding her.
Use the horn.
As she uses the hood to become her own parachute, and the goat's fine too.
I was prepared.
He's a helicopter now, because of course he is. You know, this goat addition may be one of my favorite parts of this movie. He's built to just earworm his way into your head, but he's also very quirky and adaptable, which is why the biggest tragedy of this tale is what they do to him in the sequel. 'Cause yes, don't forget there's a sequel to this movie. The very first terrible episode we ever did, and though it has a meme of its own in there...
Do I amuse you?
What happens to the goat is just awful. After establishing him as someone permanently prepared for any situation, in that movie he becomes the pain humor punching bag instead. If he appears on a road, he will be getting run over. That's his future. Maybe let's not acknowledge the sequel at all. Weinstein had his full touchy hands on the project for that one anyway. But we've now looped back to the titular house. And you know how this goes. And so do the detectives. So we skim the lines instead.
What big hands you have. Big ears you have. Bad breath you have.
And add some flourish with Red now becoming the director of the scene as she irons out some of the mistakes.
No, not yet.
As a kid who saw this kind of gag for the first time, I was absolutely enthralled with this kind of humor.
Then my granny jumped out of the closet. She was tied up.
Until we're back to the screaming and the present day. This whole usual day has been pretty standard and swift. There are events and beats to be seen, but it's not crazy. Not a lot of character, right? And that's because now we're getting into it proper. As the police wish to investigate the wolf himself, we are to see these whole events flipped on their head, recontextualizing and relayering the story as we know it. Not only was it my first mystery movie, so it seems, but it's also just really well done. The writing is on point throughout, and in the case of the wolf,
This guy's a cop.
The reporter.
And I've got the real story.
he's been an investigative journalist the whole time. Though before we dive back in narrative time again, I do want to highlight the surprisingly technical technique of this handheld camera in some of these shots.
You might as well confess. I told them everything.
Makes the whole thing feel much more messy, like a reality TV show. Didn't think it could be done in this engine. Anyway, a couple more references to external fairy tales later,
3 years ago on the Stiltskin case.
and we're back to the start of that book.
I spent the last 6 months undercover.
This guy is yet another quirky character, always doing something and not too effectively. He investigates one of the goody businesses who's a guy in a zebra costume. No, it's never really explained. And he grows a suspicion of Red for being seemingly jolly,
She seemed happy. A little too happy.
even though we know she's not. And just as quickly, we're introduced to Twitchy.
I was watching the girl like you told me to, the girl in the red hood.
This, believe it or not, is the director himself, Corey Edwards, just sped up and frantic. The architect of this film, really, and the one fixing 3 out of 10 animation errors as best he can. You know the trope he's going for. It's over the hedge before over the hedge.
You ever thought about decaffeinated coffee?
I don't drink coffee.
Right.
There's an interesting relationship with the camera these characters have, but we are in outright parody territory here, so it makes sense.
How's it going, Woolworth?
Man, what are you doing here?
Haha! It's a wolf in sheep's clothing! Another informant on the inside, who has the info on Red's family business.
I want to know about the little girl.
Don't know a thing. Sweet gal.
There's a surprising amount of these side characters, and all of them were once voice actors, now recast as celebs. Originally, this was Tom Kenny, now it's Chaz Palminteri.
Yeah, it's coming back to me now. Sweet gal.
Thankfully, SpongeBob is still in here, as one of the pigs instead. Anyway, a couple of more puns later,
You pulling the wool over my eyes?
and the wolf is stalking Red at the cable car. It's now we get to the real comparison territory as the film really flexes its wings with the little details. They may not be in the textures of this movie, but they are in the structure. From this angle and the wolf spying from a distance, Red sounds bad out of context.
Granny's recipes. Evil plan.
Meanwhile, when it comes to her fool, Twitchy was involved the whole time. And especially when looking visually at the two scenes, the wolf's version is far more lit up and unintimidating.
So, you're the little girl in the red hood.
He also tactically skips the awkward dialogue as we watch Twitchy piecing together his camera instead. In one fell swoop, we see all of Wolf's aggressions as miscommunications. The growling is his stomach, the questions are his suspicions, and his roar at her is actually Twitchy's fault. Though maybe I'm too colorblind to properly perceive the difference between his tail and the general shrubbery every time. Ever wondered how he teleported earlier? Cartoon logic!
Taxi!
Ironically labeled with Paul Bunyan's creams as the police labeled the Axeman earlier. Only just discovered that one on this rewatch. Though they're marketing this thing everywhere. There's gonna be loads of changes and references to other perspectives that I'll try not to gush about for each and every one, but this one at least is an omission we didn't see at all from Red's perspective. She just ran from the spray in her story, ending off where we know it leads, falling into the river, with some more cartoony logic of course.
Not cool.
Interesting that even physics seem to change between stories, or just that only the wolf has cartoon logic. Red has Disney princess logic. But with the two feeling down on their luck, they decide to go right to the source at Granny's place. And what's better is Boingo the rabbit has popped up.
In fact, I know a shortcut.
It's a terrible option, but it's still an option.
Never trust a bunny with directions.
Sure thing, boss. Never trust a bunny.
This whole scene is just a quick means to an end, getting us way up that mountain without the actual hurdle of it. So it's sewer tunnels and a single river. But not before my favorite joke watching this now.
Why couldn't I write movie reviews?
It's a good living. I fully know what they're insinuating with that. They're right. But this scene also brings us one shot I'm surprised I haven't seen in memes myself, as the two are chased by some giant monster, giving us this spectacle for the eyes. Someone plug this into one of those GIF engines so I can just use them forever and always, please.
He's mine.
What?
He's right behind me, isn't he?
And with some easy writing choices, they can climb right into the minecart scene, with all the more multi-layering it brings. This movie really is the movie of little details, and I think really goes to show just how far that concept goes to elevating the perception of a movie. It looks horrid. Maybe you're just used to it by now, but it's not good. And yet it feels like a well-oiled machine just by how it functions against the rest of its moving parts. You'll catch Red not so subtly passing in the background.
Now this is a shortcut.
Wait a minute.
And as beats of before now hit these characters, you'll see they don't even notice it since they were further ahead on the track, instead worrying about the other best joke in the movie.
What kind of candles are those?
Being a meat cane.
I'm never in the same room as Dynamite to repeat that joke IRL. It's one of my biggest failures that I can't unarchive that joke routinely. But hey ho, it explains that ramp from earlier, sending Red flying. Hey there, thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you haven't already for more amazing animated movies. I'm going to try and cover more amazing movies this year to keep the channel a hint more positive, and also I'm running out of terribles. But also, if you're a fan of all things Hoodwinked, we've covered the terrible sequel, we've done a scene breakdown of the minecart sequence, and I even appeared in a collab 3-4 years ago with the Movie Struct podcast with Sophia. I'll have a link down below. It was a chance for me to ramble about this movie even more. It's one of the rare times I came out of my shell and appeared somewhere else. I wasn't here. Give it all a look at the end, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll let you get back to the second half of the amazing Red Riding Hood movie. The way this movie just brings everything together so regularly and quickly just feels so satisfying. And in rapid time, too. It's only been 30 minutes. I'm recording this at a slower pace.
Come on, let's get to Granny's.
Back here again, and less so montaging along as it is new information. The wolf has been consistently early to give us more context, and this time, in ridiculous fashion, he's dressed as Granny not because he ate her.
Granny keeps a lot of her merchandise around the cottage.
Granny's business has merch, because of course it does. I love the goofy nature of this world. We've then got the wolf preparing for the scene we're about to see roll out, featuring the same blooper sound effect as heard in old Pixar bloopers.
Sweetie pie. No sugar plum. Hug your granny.
Oh, brother!
That's totally a heavy reference there. It's an animated blooper. But bafflingly, Granny is already tied up fully, and the police will go on to call this out. A major unexplained piece, still not explained. And Wolf's theory is,
Maybe to make herself look innocent.
as he's still running with the Puckets being the masterminds behind it all. But at least Wolf's story is cleared as Twitchy has photographs developed as well. What a beautiful mess of drama. And some more side gags to boot.
I was raised by wolves.
Nothing wild about them. So, suspect number 3, the woodsman. and a massive disparaging from the fairy tale. You can tell they had a lot of fun with the concept of interrogating these characters.
Then what's this? A letter opener?
Not to mention, still finding places to squeak in gags for their star-studded cast of the police crew.
This guy's a loon.
My mama's half loon.
But the kicker for this guy, though he seems pretty spaced out and in his own world, is he is also...
He's an actor.
No, boy.
not at all a real woodsman, and not at all really knowing what he's doing. As we now jump to a director and his audition room, fully diving into the Paul Bunyan thing, as this is a commercial for that. Guess they're going ham on the marketing in this season. Tactically blurring the background for some depth, as they reject him for the role.
Next!
Then it was back to my day job.
But linking us to that Red song at the start.
Played at the back of her mind.
And right into another one. This time, it's the Schnitzel song.
It's the schnitzel on a stick.
Fully diving us into the German origins of this story. We've seen so many animal characters and the occasional human in onesie, but this is the actual human population standard, it seems. Lederhosen and everything. Lovely. But the future woodsman himself is baked into the goodie business, delivering out to the local kids.
What the schnitzel?
So of course, we see the other side of the effect. With little direction to go from here, old Boingo the rabbit pops up again, though he's kind of left in the background this time as the phone rings.
We can all work for that little guy.
What?
Turns out he has a callback.
I had always heard about callbacks.
And with a bit of guidance too,
Find an axe, start swinging, okay?
he could have his dreams achieved of making it big one day. Love the golden spotlight on his face for this singular shot. And just like that, the day passes on. No quest, no mountain, no extra people. It's just the woodsman, his axe, and some trees. Brilliantly wrong to start until...
Ooh!
This then proceeds to montage across the entire day, devastating the local wildlife.
And the soothing formula!
A perfect comic relief plot in this nonsense movie, with one final tree taking us over to sunset. Which puts us right in with the timeline of the final events of the day. How did the woodsman just jump through the window like that? The giant tree itself became the very thing that chased him down and thrust him through it. Ready for the final meta spin on this scene with...
So,
Hey, nice. Flippers just walks in front like it's a projection. There's some nice choices throughout this movie. Shouldn't really be a surprise at this point. But from a narrative perspective, it doesn't actually provide too much progress. He's the red herring. Nothing of note to bring to the table up front. So we finally on Granny. Just as we're hitting halfway through the movie and we have 3 out of 4 of our main cast testimony covered. That's probably a good sign for the plot picking up from here.
are you stealing recipes to protect your sugar-coated kingdom?
It's a decent theory, as by now we've surely picked up that Granny isn't quite so Granny-like. And with so much relayering seen so far, we just know there's gotta be more to this tale. But it also finally opens up to some character development stuff, as we get personal.
My granny doesn't keep secrets.
Sure, it's only been 40 minutes, but we haven't seen much in ways of arcs just yet, as it's 90% been plot progression of actions up to this point. The only developments have been reveals that characters aren't what their first impressions made them out to be. But now we can actually address conflicts and perspectives between characters.
I'm not like other grannies.
I'm not like other girls. I kill people. My favorite thing to play is Call of Duty.
Looping back to the book for the 4th time, 5th if you're counting the opening climax, and Granny's now dropping out from a helicopter. She's into extreme sports. The furthest away archetype you could bring to her role. Crazy parody. Montaging a collection of sports she does and bringing us up to a skiing competition. With some incredibly bad crowds, wow. Have they always been 2D planes and not 3D models? How does the childhood brain paste over that? Anyway, here, Granny has her own collection of animal friends.
Hey G, you checking the hardcore European team over there?
And that's Tara Strong, previously Red prior to the recast. And listening back to Tara Strong's take on Red, It's a lot more innocent and less sarcastic than Anne Hathaway's.
Shouldn't you be in school?
Shouldn't I have a lawyer?
She also played this the first time round, but now it's the one role she gets to keep. These characters talk a little weird, and maybe that's outdated in the way a lot of under-budgeted movies are, but after being self-aware about even that,
Give it up, give it up, give it up.
Zickety-doo.
Why are you like this?
we bump into Boingo, who takes Granny's signature.
To my biggest and cutest fan.
Then the race begins. This definitely feels like, to me, like a bit where the movie's chugging. Just because suddenly, there are so many unique 3D models of characters having to be designed. And it shows. You look at any of these characters not in the forefront of the shot, and it is choppy. And even the focus scenes of everyone getting prepared to race looks uncanny a few times. But soon enough, the Arnold Schwarzenegger archetype villain pops up and breaks Granny's ski at the opening. Thus begins the real race, as the European team is so clearly the evil team, and some of these scenes are sorta good. I always like the ones in motion, it seems. And though the snowball throwing isn't the craziest form of attack in this race, the slashing as they go down the mountain,
You're small.
that's pretty neat animation. And at some point, we've got to link back to the other tales of the mountain, so let's recontextualize that second phone call.
Red called me the second time. Gotta go, Munchkin.
This call did have an oddly white background before, and as Granny is dangled off a cliff by Arnold, we almost get a reveal
Who do you work for?
We were hired by the bandit.
before Granny is pushed off of the cliff, living by a single branch because we know she's not dead. So of course, more extreme sports later and Granny's back on track. You get the premise of this character by now, and we simply carry onwards, ultimately deciding that the best way to take down the Europeans, though aren't all German locals also European, is to blow up the mountain with her own, well, C4 in this case. The avalanche you maybe didn't question before has a cause too. And the movie by now is much less subtle in its connections, outright replaying where everyone else is at the time.
Do not feel prepared.
Mountain showing us who's boss.
Ending with Granny perfectly avoiding the disaster, grabbing that winning trophy and parachuting off into the distance. For another scene we'll remember from before, gotta love how this parachute fully reverts her back to her Granny costume for the perfect misinterpretation from Red, as she'll go on to witness her in the sky, not realizing she is literally in the sky. Still no parachute handles in view though. Much cheaper and easier to reuse the earlier shots. Honestly, I get it.
Ah, that's my girl.
As for Tanglegate, it is literally the last missing context to explain the start of this movie, so how does it come to be? Well, Granny enters through her chimney and proceeds to... That's literally how it happened. Cinema. Sometimes an anticlimax can be just as revealing. So we now get the scene one more time from exclusively within the wardrobe until we're back at the screams of it all again. And there you are, the 4 suspects' testimonies and a complete picture. All it took was 50 minutes and you've got a multi-layered, stuffed to the brim with details little adventure. And now the plot begins. Looking back on this movie now, it's been relatively simple. I can gush about those overlaps all day, and there are more that connect backwards now, like hearing the Schnitzel song when Wolf is listening out for Red. But since most of the depth of this movie has been in the little details, only now can we really follow an arc for our characters. As we look into them, now we finally know them all. And the most obvious conflict up front is Red and her granny.
Don't look at your granny like that.
To which Red is fully dejected on the news, not knowing who her granny even is, let alone if she's the goody bandit. So with the officers taking a tactical coffee break, she sets off. Granny only now realizing her little girl wants to see the world outside of the forest.
Of course you do. You're a pucket.
And so Red heads off. Jesus, that is a stark color choice into the blue. Like, that is full-on glow-in-the-dark levels of blue. But it's your classic brooding scene, with Mr. Over-the-Hedge song guy Ben Folds making an appearance for Red is Blue, as it's called. Pretty on the nose.
Doesn't make much sense, but red is blue.
What a time this guy had in the mid-2000s. This gig and rocking the suburbs, it really is who you know. And this film is made up of a lot of friends. All sorts of minor roles going to fellow filmmakers and producers. Kinda wholesome in that way. But Red is reminiscing on a flashback with Granny despite looking exactly the same, just in sepia, seeing the family lineage of successful Pucketts before catching a medal for Battle of the Iron Cage Gladiators. The hood is meant to carry the legacy of what their family is built, all the while...
If there are two things your granny doesn't do, it's lie and play extreme sports.
Ooh.
Why the you lying?
Back to the house, and we still have great jokes and references coming out of the offices wherever possible.
I know about houses. I built mine out of straw. I'm not an idiot.
All the while, an ominous POV shot has us sneaking in and getting away with Red's basket.
Hold on, Smokey. Where's the fire?
It's time for the detective's final monologue. Not about whatever breaking and entering, license to wield an axe crime this scene first started as, but it's all about the Goody Bandit presence across the landscape. And like any good agent, he points the finger out one by one to each of them.
But someone robbed me!
I may lead a double life.
Talk about profiling.
All to come together as they realize Red is gone, and so are the recipes. Match cutting back and forth with Red herself as she witnesses this new player. It's reveal time. Hold on to your hats if you haven't already figured it out. I was certainly stunned the first time I saw it in cinemas. Kid's first plot twist. Justifiably coming to the conclusion for pulling the strings in everyone's story, ever present and deceptive. Or you could have worked it out from that one evil look he gave when Red first fell. I think I just fobbed it off at the time. Must have been my eyes playing tricks on me. But it brings it all together. Our mystery solved and all on the same team, it's time to hone in on our villain.
Bring in a police sketch artist. Make it a cartoonist.
So as the police all cascade out, our remaining cast have plans themselves, realizing they need to go up the mountain, not down. It's like an Avengers movie, this ending, really. But this is 2006, so it's not quite eye-roll material just yet. Oh yeah, it's 2006-ish. We're right at the gates of the iconic...
Is that coffee? Go get him, boy.
Quicksilver before Quicksilver. Though I guess if the squirrel from over the hedge walks in slow-mo time, that's X-Men Quicksilver. Whilst this is Marvel Quicksilver. Fast against real time. All the while, you have the evil base final spot. Now, with Boingo having one of the most cursed evil faces I've ever seen. Like, the animation quality overall is uncanny, but sometimes I think it really helps to sell it. In auditions, Andy Dick played all voice directions in reverse, laughing when he's supposed to cry. And I think with extremes like this, it really shows. And just emphasizes how strangely unstable Boingo is under this take. Before, he was quite standard, apparently. Anyway, he may be evil, but he's still comedic.
You prioritize, you set your goals.
Lots of absurdly serious talk in this movie, and I adore how it's used here. But now Red's popped up to confront him herself.
I'm walking out of here with those recipes.
It's properly finale time. And a chance to really showcase some unexpected territory, as Red's always been seen as ultimately capable, only for the bunny himself to suddenly be more than meets the eye. All to turn around with Red actually losing out of the two of them, though they do briefly turn it into a crying thing. Which I guess is normal considering she is just a growing girl still, but feels a little weird as well. Like, if there was anything in this movie that had a little bit of strangeness to it under the hood, it's this. Maybe I'm reading into it too much. Anyway, the bunny's on top and ready to exposition about what this is all about, so let's get things in motion.
And Keith, darn it, change your name.
And keep it casual on the side. Is this Marvel humor? But no, what's really remaining now is one final song and dance number. Top of the Woods with Boingo up front and center.
But I'm gonna be top of the woods.
This is some shameless entertainment factor right here. It's quirky, it's camp, and it's a lot of fun. And Andy Dick as Boingo does a stellar job at his role, especially here. Anyway, the plot underneath the surface is Boingo has stolen all other goodie recipes in order to beat out the competition for their own addictive alternative, before then becoming your classic modern-day corporation, monopolizing the market, cornering consumers, and destroying nature just as a cherry on top.
So I've got to blow the competition away. Oh, and that's not a metaphor.
It's funny, this sequence goes by so quickly that I don't even particularly remember the destructive prompt. This slideshow is a lot of information, so I was a lot more hooked on the crazy kid slides earlier to remember the end of the world threat. Anyway, with Red's sarcastic reaction to bounce off of,
Yeah, I got it.
she's strapped away to Dynamite Express. To be the damsel in distress for the others? Oh, I hope they fix that later. But what they certainly nail is the ending to this song, unabashed and unapologetic.
You've been hoodwinked, baby!
Distinctively remember rolling my eyes as a kid to be hit so directly with that one. But really, Wolfie wraps it all up.
The song was catchy. Choreography was terrible.
Actually, I think the choreography was decent enough. Simplistic and classic. The only real hurdles are the actual animation qualities, but I'm in too deep now to properly recognize how cursed this whole thing looks. Only Boingo's face is weird now. But yes, the whole gang is here now for the heist and takedown of the day. And though it has been this entire time, it's really now that the cartoony antics especially stand out to me. Maybe it's because it used to be exclusively the wolf, but now he's here, it's like his energy expands to everyone in the scene. So a fight breaks out? Well, the whole thing has to be a dust cloud. Oh, but wait, not just yet. First, we need to whip out Old Reliable.
He's standing right behind me, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Back when this line was in its early days. But Wolf W. Wolf, yes, that's his full name, by the way, then just goes full Bugs Bunny on us, just straight up giving us a 3D Looney Tunes experience in the skin of Wile E. Coyote, the attitude of Daffy Duck, and the logic of Bugs.
And what he means to say is that I'm the building inspector.
And naturally, this works. This is again just one of those opportunities for the jokes to come flying out that go over your head as a kid. You can sense a lot of improv in these lines. And perceiving it as an adult again is just a sweet treat.
You're an evil genius, right?
I was asked to join Mensa.
But it's all meant to be a distraction. Woodsman woofing it as an actor, but Granny on board to do her parkour thing along the top ridge until a single mistake gets in the way. And I gotta praise the animation, oddly, here, because it's one thing to just devolve into a classic fight scene, but to be ballsy enough to have your parkour granny character consistently doing extreme sports tricks as part of their moveset takes an insane amount of ambition on your limited budget animation. Like, this is approaching some Jackie Chan levels of attitude. It's not quite there, but the logic is somewhere under the hood. And I love the movie for its high goals. And the stakes only go higher.
Little Red's gonna take a ride!
Which somehow is not already the bad ending, as apparently Granny doesn't even need a cable car to traverse the cable route. And using just a muffin tin? This movie is crazy! All the European ski team also have the perfect skill set for this exact circumstance, but at least there's a hint of realism from the cartoon characters.
Wow, that's a long way.
All the while, our B-Team police squad are in a squabble with Director Twitchy intruding on them, bringing us to, I think, a relatively rare take on the Quicksilver logic. I feel like I've seen it somewhere before, but it's certainly not quite as common as the usual.
The criminal you're looking for cannot be found at the bottom of the mountain.
And hey, would you look at that? The fears of turning the protagonist, little infantilized Anne Hathaway, into a weak damsel in distress is also subverted in this 2005-ish movie, as Red manages to escape her death trap all by herself. Not exactly a mandatory beat to have to follow, but I deeply appreciate that in the Weinstein movie, they made a seriously good move here. Doesn't mean she can handle the full cable-only run, so there's a use for Granny popping up anyway, but still, solid execution. And ending it off with some snazzy explosions to prove it's really the finale. I do like how it all comes together. All for the conflict of going the wrong way to come to a succinct end, as the cable car can be rerouted straight to the police themselves, with one last callback to solidify the puckets.
Oh, wonderful!
We have our villains instantly incarcerated from their grind. They technically don't actually achieve all too much in this final beat, and similarly, Woodsman and Wolf just kind of bow out, but it's the rule of cool.
Get him out of here, boys.
Wrap it all together with some reconnections being made, and a family getting, ironically, more stronger knit with their double revelations.
I take after my granny.
And we can wrap up our little fairy tale parody as absolute cinema from one of the most unexpected places. A startup indie production team animated overseas with barely a budget stringing it together, with a recast celebrity lineup and a script inked in gold. This was a true hidden gem of its time, and a cinema trip that properly inspired my adoration for movies and animation as a medium. And time travel. And all thanks to that silly narrative time traveling idea. Oh, but there's a post-credits scene?
You'd like to come and work for me?
My god, this really is a Marvel movie script. Getting young me super excited for a sequel, but oh god, no, it's a false shepherd, gang! Don't say yes! Whatever you do, don't say yes! It's only downhill from here! On so many angles!
Not yet.
That sequel movie would then be the foundational first episode of our entire terrible series. So these movies truly did pivot the direction of my life to some extent. That's wild to think. Thanks, Weinstein. But taking on this movie and approaching it in its own little bubble, and this is one of my personal favorite animated movies of all time. And I will never stop finding an excuse to gush and praise it from any angle. To the point I popped up in a rare collab years ago just to be able to talk about this movie some more. As back in 2022, I joined for an episode of the Movie Struck podcast with Sophia, where we talked about this movie and its symbolisms and impacts and all that. Perhaps I'll link it down below if I remember, but whatever the case, I've been ranting about this movie positively plenty. That was the amazing Hoodwinked movie. Red Riding Hood movie? We'll see on the title. My name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this video. Do tell us your thoughts on Hoodwinked. Did you see it at the time? Heard about its cult following over the years? Or only just saw it today? Or hey, let's talk about that original early version that was now being dug out. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts and more. But otherwise, I shall see you all in a little bit. Cheerio!